going to go about this review in a slightly unorthodox way, and the first thing we're going to cover is the difference between the Plus and the Elite Laced. The difference is the tongue. That's basically it. There is very, very little difference between the two boots, other than the fact that this has a tongue and this doesn't. The specs are the same, the sole plate's the same. There's a slight difference in your feel on the ball and how the boot kind of feels on your foot because of the tongue, but realistically, there's no difference. And if I have to recommend one to you that is best for performance and best for value, it's going to be the Elite Laced. However, which one am I going to wear? I'm clearly wearing the one with the tongue because it's got a tongue. And how am I going to get the best lockdown in this? It doesn't matter! I don't care how I'm going to get the best lockdown. The answer is a runner's loop here and not pulling your tongue full David Beckham style. Tongue down here looks amazing, especially if you lose this top lace hole here. Just take it out. Don't use it. I love it. I love it so much. It's nostalgia in its purest form as far as my little heart is concerned. But if you put a runner's loop here and have the tongue slightly higher up, they perform better. But what's the point? That if you're looking for pure performance, buy these ones without the tongue anyway. And if you've got the tongue, do what you want. Go full Beckham.
Never go full Beckham!
So for most of the rest of the review, we're just going to rest these back over here because they've done their duty. Sticking with our unorthodox format because there's just so many things on this boot that are much better than I expected and better than a lot of other boots on the market, and they're like the first things you need to know before you need to know what the upper's made out of. And we are talking about the Last, this brand new Last. And for those of you that don't know what the Last is, it's the shape. It's the shape that the boot is built to be. And my sweet lord, this is a really well-designed boot in terms of shape. Now, you could potentially have an issue with a narrow toe box. The toe box is a little bit narrow, is a little bit pinched. If you have a wider forefoot, that could be a problem for you. And overall, they're just a slimmer boot. I won't say narrow, they're a slimmer boot than you would have found on the previous generation accuracy for sure, especially through that forefoot and toe box area. Overall, they are just streamlined and they kind of hug your foot as they move down each contour. And part of that comes because the upper, this new Hybrid Touch 2.0 upper, is very, very soft and it doesn't have an awful lot of padding. In fact, it has basically no padding between the upper and the liner. So it's a very one-to-one feel. It's very, it just wraps around your foot. I like it so much. You feel locked in the moment you put the boots on. And I wouldn't say that lockdown is one of the best traits of the boot. It's just the way the boot makes you feel. It makes you feel secure and it makes you feel like you can quite literally do anything. I'm getting philosophical, I'm waxing lyrical here, but it's excellent. The shape of this boot is wonderful. Now, if you have a particularly wide foot, ignore everything I just said because these might not be for you. The upper does soften up, it does loosen up, and overall it's very nice. But I think if you have a particularly wide foot, if you look at wide fit boots, if that's you, these probably aren't going to be for you, and I'm very sorry, but they're so good. If you have a narrow or a regular or even a slightly wide foot, oh, worth the fit. And I love it. I love the shape. I love it so much.
Hey you, like the video and get subscribed to Boot Wizard.
We touched on the upper there, so let's dive back into that. And it is Hybrid Touch 2.0, and the main difference being it's basically thinner and there's no padding. That isn't really good or bad. It is all about preference. And I think if I was thinking about this from a purely Predator point of view, if I was like, what do I want a Predator to have? I would maybe want a little bit more padding, a little less kind of direct. Barefoot's not the right word, but a little bit less direct with the touch. But in terms of pure performance and why I actually like it a boot, these are great. And I don't want even a smidge more padding in them at all. It's absolutely fantastic. Let's talk about a little downside, I suppose, is that anything that isn't covered with this new strike skin, these SL strike skin elements, is a little bit on the slick side, especially where the stripes are. Now, yes, you're not kicking the ball all the way back here, but maybe, you know, you might want to control something over here. It's fairly slick. These ridges add a little bit of texture. They don't do a whole lot. And while it is a little bit, it's not slick, but it is definitely smooth. Let's say it's smooth rather than slick, and that's not ideal for what you would want. However, let's talk about the fun stuff, these strike skin elements. Now, you may have noticed I brought these out. These are an absolute mess. So this is the right boot, which is still in one piece. The left boot of my Manias is cracked right here, where I decided to get them out. The mud that is on them is the mud from the last time that I ever used them, and I haven't cleaned them because it hurt my very soul when they broke. So anyway, this is what you would expect from a Predator. This kind of rubber element, which essentially is hard rubber. This is so good. This is so much better. It's like a little, it's like lots of little soft, grippy rubber fins that just brush the ball. It's very well done, and they're nice and grippy, and you can generate wonderful spin and swerve and hitting, like, it's not even free kicks, hitting like a long driven ball with it and getting a backspin on it. Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful, I tell you. Now, what we do have, of course, with the upper is this new, a U-throat collar. New. Basically meaning that we have a tongue. It's a two-piece upper construction, and this is fine. And I know a lot of people are probably going to like it, and it does make getting the boots on and off a lot easier, which is definitely a bonus and something I've complained about for a long time with one-piece uppers. However, I actually think a one-piece upper would have performed slightly better. I would have felt a little bit further locked in. I'd have felt a little bit better pushed into the heel. And I personally find it's due to the areas of volume of my foot that if I'm to take the tongue out here, that these little flaps do actually only just tuck in around my feet. And if my tongue starts to move, then I actually end up with the flaps kind of starting to come out, and it doesn't look great. I kind of find it a little bit distracting, and I probably would have preferred a one piece, like a knit piece in there to make it a one piece upper for pure performance. But there's nothing wrong with this. It's nice, and it's actually fun to see companies return to the two-piece upper and develop and show some really great boots, and that you don't need to have a one piece on absolutely everything. Having options is absolutely key. So I mentioned the heel a little bit there, and you can see here you've got the two pillows, which have kind of come a little bit synonymous with Adidas. Now, it's not a huge amount of cushioning in there, but it is enough. And then that heel, the heel lockdown, the actual heel counter mainly comes, the hold mainly comes from these, the external heel counter. There's not a lot in that area at all. When it comes to the back, that makes it nice and soft, and it means that there's not really any pressure points at all. I can't complain. And the material on the inside here, this kind of suede material with the little perforations in, does a really great job of holding onto your heel. It's not the greatest heel lockdown in the world, but the shape of the boot as a whole and the shape of the heel is very, very good. And I really like the feeling, even if I don't feel always like I'm pushed in and locked into the back of the heel. More so if you go for the runner's loop, but I like tongues and I like pretending I'm David Beckham, so what are you going to do? Let's talk about the sole plate, and this is brand new. This is another control frame variation, and it's great. It's really good. You've got torsion bars that run down either side, which make this midfoot and the heel very stiff and stable, and I love that. And then you've got definitely enough flex in the forefoot. Now, it's not excessively springy or super responsive. The boot as a whole is responsive enough, and the sole plate does a lot of the heavy lifting there. It's pretty good. I'm not going to complain about the responsiveness at all when it comes to the boot. And these torsion bars help. Reasonably springy in the forefoot, it's fine, and it really suits this sole plate, these studs So this is triangular studs all the way through every single element of the boot, and they're all rounded off at the ends. They give you great rotational movement while also giving you good push off to basically go straight line. It's not going to be the most aggressive sole plate you're ever going to come across, but it's really well balanced. Now, it's classic Adidas stud pattern, stud shaping, everything like that. It's what we've come to expect from Adi, but it's actually great. Like, it just suits the boot. Now, on other boots and maybe at other times, I'd have complained about something like this, either not being aggressive enough or not being innovative enough or anything like that. But on the whole, it just suits the boot. And the whole boot feels well balanced. Every element of the boot works with the next element of the boot. And it just feels really well thought out. It's not like loads of people went and designed different things and put them together. It feels like they really tried to have this smooth process where everything flows into the next element. And I think that helps with the design as well. That's kind of what the design feels like. Everything flows, everything's smooth. And that's how I feel when I play in it. I feel smooth and it flows. And when it comes down to it, I can smash a ball or ping a pass and they can feel special as well. I really like these boots, I genuinely do. Something else I want to touch on, I don't normally touch on in reviews, is kind of the build quality. And I don't mean necessarily the durability, I don't mean that they're going to stay together, fall apart, whatever. What I mean is the way that they feel immediately out of the box, putting your feet in them, feeling the materials, the synthetic suede through the back, the liner, even to a degree, the insole. Nah, forget the insole. The insole's crap. Or the insole's always terrible. But just the way it's put together, every element of it feels quality. Now, boots are going up in price rapidly to the point where special editions are hitting 300 euros quickly. The 30 was a different matter altogether. And I want more than ever on my boots to feel well made now. And the Predator, I think, feels well made. You feel like you're getting quality for your money. And I think that now more than ever, that's more important than ever. I said ever too many times. Moving on. And with things being really well thought out, you've just got this little bit of taping across the tongue here. It goes across and runs down. There's a little bit of padding on the back of the tongue. And essentially it's just to help the tongue retain shape. The tongue is pre-shaped, pushes down into either side, and it's to help stop it moving. Now, again, I would still prefer a one piece, but there is effort gone into making sure that this is as good as it can possibly be. And I appreciate that a lot. These are also really light, one of the lightest Predators ever. And again, whether that's your jam or not is completely down to your own personal preference, but I think it suits the boot and it suits modern boots, and it doesn't feel like anything's been taken away from this structurally. It's like this could have just naturally come out as a light boot, and that's just how it is. These are great.